Good morning everybody, it's Claire Jones here from Your One Life Healthy Weight Solutions, and I'm here for Monday Morning Matters episode 16, which is all about why protein is so important for weight loss. I'm sorry I'm a couple of minutes late. I've had one of those mornings where I was trying to cram a bit too much in and I was a bit over ambitious in terms of what I could achieve. But I'm here, which is the main thing. And if anybody is watching on live, then obviously do say hello. Put a like and a hashtag or, hello in the comments, because obviously what that does is it just helps Facebook to know that I've gone live, and that obviously it then informs other people that I've gone live. Oh, morning Nikki. So really welcome, good to see you. And obviously if you are watching on replay, again, if you could put hashtag replay in the comments, and it just helps everybody to know that there's a video there to watch, and people can then squeeze it in when they get a moment to watch or listen. Obviously you don't need to watch me, you can just listen to me while you're doing something else. There's no problem at all. So what I'm going to be talking about today, as I said, is the importance of protein when we're trying to lose weight. Now I've only got 10 minutes, so it really is just going to be a few pointers and just a bit of an overview, but I will post some links in the comments because this is a vast subject, impossible to cover in 10 minutes. But I want you to just have a couple of things to take away and just be aware of that will hopefully help you to make the most of what you've learned today. So first of all, I'm just going to say I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of what to eat because there's so much information out there. And what I am going to do, as I say, is put a couple of links in the comments which will give you some ideas of what to eat. What I really want to focus on is why it's so important, because that's the key thing. Because if you understand why it's so important, you'll be more likely to actually make the choices that you need to make and go and obviously find out what's going to suit you. Because obviously I could say, yeah, you can eat this, you can eat that, but you've all got your own tastes and preferences and family preferences as well to accommodate. So what I'll do is I'll give you some links that you can go and read to work out what food you want to eat in light of what I'm going to tell you today. So what actually is protein? So official definition, I'm just going to read to you from the British Nutrition Foundation, says that protein is a macronutrient that we need for growth, repair and maintenance in the body, especially for bones and muscles. And our protein needs change across the course of our lives. Now, and that's due to a variety of reasons. And obviously when it comes to weight loss, as if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that when we lose weight, we also lose muscle. Some of that is going to happen anyway, simply because smaller bodies need less muscle. But also, if we're not looking after the muscle we've already got, we're likely to lose more of it. So we have to tell the body that we need it by doing resistance training. And of course, if we're doing resistance training, our muscles need protein, and our bodies are continually breaking down the proteins in our body and rebuilding them. So we need to have a really good constant intake of it in order to make sure that we preserve our muscle mass as much as we possibly can while we're losing weight. Now, in terms of how much protein we need to eat, there are so many different opinions about this, and it's really hard to kind of work out, what's the right answer. My view on this is just see what works for you. But generally speaking, the official advice is that we need 0.75 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for an average weight adult. So obviously if your weight is higher than average, you'll need a bit more than that. But that's really the minimum. We kind of need to get a bit more of that. There's little evidence out there that suggests we can eat too much protein. However, there are always, obviously, we do hear of cases where perhaps, it's higher protein is associated with certain problems. So we don't want to go overboard and then just, eat protein at the exclusion of everything else. Having a balanced diet is really, really important. General principles when we're thinking about losing weight is if you can get about 25% of your calorie intake coming from good quality protein, then you're going to be doing all right. Now, Why is it so important? As I said, it's because, you know, we need to preserve our muscle mass, and as much as we possibly can when we're losing weight, because obviously once we've lost weight, if you remember from my previous videos, our muscles are the biggest burner of calories in our bodies. And so when we've lost weight, if we've lost too much muscle, it's going to be really hard to sustain the weight loss that we've achieved. So it's vital that we preserve that muscle mass as much as we possibly can, so that when we get to our goal, we can stay there. Obviously, we can then bring in more resistance training, because we can't build muscle in a calorie deficit, but we can build muscle when we're taking in more calories. So obviously, once you've reached your goal, it's like a fine balance, getting the, you know, increasing your exercise, especially resistance training, and then eating more to fuel that training. And it's a bit of a tricky thing to do. So it's a good idea to get some expert help with that, because it takes a little working out. But getting back to, obviously, you know, protein and what the important thing about it is for us when losing weight, is that we need to make sure we're getting enough. About 25% of your calorie intake is great. A good way to make sure that you're doing that is by tracking your food for a little while. So you can then see, if you're using an app like MyFitnessPal or NutriCheck, I mean, there's loads of them out there now. But if you use an app, you can be inputting what you're eating, and then just seeing how that pans out as far as the protein is concerned. And obviously, I mean, there are reports, and certainly a lot of the things that I read say that we eat too much protein. So it'll be interesting to see if you track your food a little bit, so just tracking what you're doing at the moment, perhaps, to see what your protein intake actually is. But the problem is, of course, that protein doesn't usually exist all by itself. You know, we don't just say, right, I'm going to eat some protein. We're going to eat various different foods that contain protein and carbohydrates and fats. So if the protein that we're eating is coming from foods that are very high in fat, then that's going to push our calorie intake higher. So what we really want to be doing is aiming for protein sources that are lean, i.e. they don't have a lot of fat in them. And I'm going to, as I say, in the comments, I'm not going to spend time talking about that now. I'm going to put the links in the comments so that you can have a read of what you think would work for you in terms of good protein choices, whether that be if you're a meat eater or a vegetarian or a vegan. I'm going to be putting some links in there for you so that you can have a look. But I want to tell you another thing that's really interesting about why protein is important for losing weight, because obviously when we're trying to lose weight, we get hungry. If we're trying to eat less calories than our bodies need, we get hungry. Now, obviously, it's well known that protein helps to keep us fuller for longer, and that it perhaps reduces our need to snack, and it perhaps reduces our portion intake when we're eating. Science isn't necessarily clear about why that is. Oh, hi Fiona, sorry I didn't see you. Morning Rebecca, sorry, these things are just coming up to me now. So yes, what was I saying? So science isn't particularly clear about why protein helps us to stay fuller for longer. There are various different opinions on this, and it may be that, you know, all of them apply potentially. One of them is that when we're eating foods that are high in protein alongside carbohydrates and fats, our digestive process is slower than if we were just eating carbohydrates on their own. So that's another good reason why don't just eat the piece of fruit, have some nuts with it, or some Greek yogurt, so that you get it slows down the digestion, which again keeps us fuller for longer. But there's a really interesting other theory that I came across fairly recently in the last couple of years, which is this thing called protein leverage theory. Now, this theory suggests that when we are snacking on or binging on the foods that, you know, we know are so tasty and moreish and make us feel better when we're feeling, sad or upset, or we're feeling that need to soothe. We tend to go for things like the biscuits, the cakes, the crisps, the donuts, all of those sorts of things. And what's really interesting about those sorts of foods is they're very low in protein. And so we keep going and we keep going, and sometimes you may be someone who perhaps feels that you need to keep eating, that you haven't got that switch that says stop, I've had enough now. And if you're eating those sorts of foods, what this theory is suggesting is that it's because the brain knows when it's had enough protein. And if you're eating foods that are high in protein, you won't feel the same need to keep eating compared with if you're eating foods that are low in protein. So, as I say, that's a really interesting theory. There is some evidence to support it, and it's one I think that is still being very much explored. But just think about, if you are someone who knows you snack a lot, if you know that you perhaps have binges, if you know that when you start eating you find it difficult to stop, see what happens if you increase your protein intake while you're eating those things. So, if you're eating maybe biscuits and cakes is your thing, maybe have a boiled egg with it and see what happens. I know that maybe not sound the most attractive combination, but this is about experimenting and seeing what works for you, because we're all different, and protein is really important. It is well known that it does help us with appetite control. So we need to make sure we're getting enough of it, but we don't need to obviously exclude other food groups. We need to make sure we're eating a balanced diet. So I hope that helps. So I'm just looking at my notes just to see if there's anything else that I haven't covered that I wanted to say. Those are the main things. As I say, I'm going to put some links in the comments for you so that you've got some reading to see what's going to work for you in terms of what your preferences are, what your particular dietary needs are. And because I could tell you, I could reel off lists of loads and loads of foods, but you'll just get bored. So it's better to just read it. So I'm just looking at my notes. So just the other thing just to say is, don't get hung up on the numbers. So if you're aiming for about 25% of your calorie intake being from good quality lean proteins, you're going to be doing all right. MyFitnessPal and NutriCheck and things like that will really help you to be able to see over time how that's going. I do have a video in the group and on YouTube about using how to use MyFitnessPal to get the best out of it, to be able to see what your intake is. And they have a really good pie chart. A lot of the food trackers do a pie chart, so you can see it in an instant whether you're getting it about right. But don't get hung up on the numbers. If it's 20% or 30% or somewhere in between, you'll be doing all right. So don't stress about it. And just think about every single time you eat, make sure that there's something that's got a good protein source in it, and see what happens. And let me know. I'd be really keen to know, what you do with this information, and what changes you make, and whether you see a difference. It may be this is a good one for anyone who's thinking about doing the August challenge, that maybe you could choose increasing your protein, or maybe it might be about getting better quality protein, because it may be you're eating enough, but it may be that you're eating the sorts of protein that also have a lot of fat, those foods that have a lot of fat as well, which is going to be pushing your calories up. So perhaps see if you can make some swaps. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to go into my accountability club. Oh, well done, Lucy. That's great. I'm going to be going into my accountability club now to do my live session. But after that, I will be coming back and dropping the links in the comments here at some point today. So I will obviously let you know when I've done that. So have a good day, and let me know what you think of this and how you get on with it. And I'll be really keen to know. Take care. Bye.